views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Buenas noches. Good evening, everyone. My name is Elena Estoribe, and I'm an actress and producer, and I am honored to be here moderating this special event for our beloved friend, Congressman Adriano Espaillat. Today is his swearing in. Hoy lo juramentamos a un dominicano que llegó pues a lo más alto que tiene el gobierno de Estados Unidos, que es nuestro Congreso. That is why today we welcome all of you. I want all of you to please text everyone, message everyone to log into this Facebook page, because we have a high quality list of different important guests that will be joining us today. But before we begin any of that, let's start with blessings. Let's bless all of you and all of us here on screen with Reverend Reginald Lee Backus. Adelante.
Thank you so much to Congressman Espaillat. Congratulations. Let us go now to the Lord in prayer. Gracious and eternal God, we thank you for this day, this opportunity that we have never seen and will never see again, for the blessed privilege that is ours to share together, to pause amongst the hustle and bustle of life, so much that is going on, to pay the proper homage and reverence to a legend among us, Congressman Adriano Espaillat. We ask that you crown his head with knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. Bless these proceedings and this service that will happen. We know indeed that he is standing on the shoulders of giants, and he is establishing his own giant legacy in this time and in this day and this age. We need men of character, men of courage, men who are unafraid to speak truth to powers, and we have that in our congressman. And for that, we are grateful. We ask that you bless these service. We ask that Dios bendiga America, Dios bendiga Congressman Adriano Espaillat. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Reverend. Amen. Y bueno, vamos a ir cambiando un poquito de inglés al español porque vamos a esperar. We're switching from English to Spanish because we are welcoming everyone, just like the United States does, and just like our friend Adriano Espaillat does. But we need to continue. And now, yo me voy a poner de pie. I will stand up and do this because we continue with the United States National Anthem. In charge is our beloved Amaya No.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets that glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land
Oh my God. Dígame, mi gente, si eso no es una voz, si eso no es un talento. That's a true talent. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Bueno, esto es en vivo. Estamos en Facebook. Les repito nuevamente, estamos en la página de nuestro congresista Adriano Espaillat. We are live on Facebook through our Congressman Adriano Espaillat Facebook page. I need you all, todos los latinos, todos los dominicanos, que manden mensajitos a que se conecte todo el mundo a esta página, porque hoy se hace historia. Today, we make history. And immediately, I have the duty to read all of you and welcome all of you, the list of elected officials. State Senator Brian Benjamin, State Senator Jose Serrano, State Senator Robert Jackson, and from the Bronx, Council Member Vanessa L. Gibson, Council Member Fernando Cabrera, Assemblyman Jeffrey Dinowitz, Manhattan, Council Member Mark Levin, Council Member Diana Ayala, Council Member Idanis Rodriguez, Council Member Bill Perkins, Assemblywoman Inez Dickens, Assemblywoman Carmen de la Rosa, Assemblyman Robert Rodriguez, Assemblyman Al Taylor, Manhattan Borough President Gail Brewer. Así es que welcome everyone. Thank you so much for uniting in this celebration. Y esto continúa. Vamos entonces a ver aquí. Continuamos con salutation message number 1. Tenemos una serie de mensajitos. We have different messages from all the people that want to be part of history today live on Facebook. And message number 1 comes from President of Yeshiva University, Ari Berman. Adelante.
Thank you so much. I am so honored to be here tonight at this incredible celebration of a truly remarkable man, Congressman Espaillat. He is a dear friend and an incredible leader of our Washingtonites community and of the United States of America. Jews throughout the world, the Jewish people throughout the world right now are reading the section of the Hebrew Bible that deals with Moses bringing the people out of slavery, out of Egypt. And the Torah, the Hebrew Bible, introduces Moses with 3 very quick stories. Moses walks out into Egypt and he sees a slave, a Jewish slave, being beaten by an Egyptian master, and he jumps in and he saves the slave. The next day, we're told that Moses goes out and he sees 2 Jewish people fighting. And one Jew raises his hand to the other, and Moses intervenes, and he protects the one who is about to be hit. And on the 3rd day, Moses goes out and he sees 3 Midianites fighting against women who are defenseless. And he runs out and he protects the women from their oppressors. And these 3 stories capture the personality of Moses. Why was Moses chosen to be the savior and bring redemption to the world? Because he stood against injustice. Whenever there was a vacuum of leadership, Moses would step in and he'd protect the victims. He'd protect the defenseless, whether it was his own people who were being hurt or whether it was other people who were being hurt. Moses would step into the vacuum, and that's leadership. In times of crises, in times of vacuums, that's when you need leaders with values. Congressman Espaillat is a leader with values. If you look at what happened in our community during a time of COVID, when no one knew where the world was going, and the way that he stepped into the breach to bring a collaboration of all of the partners within his community to address the incredible needs of this time, to help us have a certainty, a rock of a presence in a time of fundamental uncertainty. Okay, this is the biblical model of leadership in times of crisis and a vacuum, leadership with values. It's really my pleasure to be here. I'm honored to be here at this historic occasion to congratulate Congressman Espaillat, because by congratulating him, I'm really congratulating all of us, for we have the blessing of his leadership in our community, and we have been lifted because of him. So it's a wonderful celebration. Congratulations. I say Mazel Tov. And we look forward to many, many years of close partnership together with you, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Berman. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Good evening. And well, the list, as I said, continues of VIPs, as I call them, and they truly are. Our next guest is former U.S. Representative Charles Rangel, or Charles Rangel, of New York, of the New York's 13th District, which Congressman Espaillat now proudly serves, founded the Black Congressional Caucus and became the first African-American chairman of the Powerful Ways and Means Committee. He was the second longest serving incumbent member of the House of Representatives at the time of his retirement. Welcome, nuestro reverendo Charles Rangel.
Well, Adriano, congratulations. I know we don't have as much time as we would like to tell you how proud we are of your succession, your successful re-election. And we know that the word is that after every storm, the sun is supposed to come out. Well, for the last 4 years, we've had a hurricane, and thank God we have the Senate and the House and Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and you to provide the leadership for the sun, really, to reconstruct what this Constitution says and what it is not. And what a wonderful time for us to reach out. And as the distinguished gentleman said from New Sheba, it's also time for our religious leaders to stand up and to talk about the racism that exists in this country, the prejudice and the bigotry, and the fact that we now have an opportunity to make substantial changes, because people can say what they want against Donald Trump, but in this great country, 74 million people not only voted for him, but physically and criminally attacked our Capitol and the members of Congress. And so it's a great time, and congratulations too. I'm certain that a lot of people looking and listening don't know that you've been appointed to the Appropriations Committee. Well, if you don't know the Appropriations Committee, you don't know money. The House and the Senate can say how much money they want spent on anything in the world. But our congressman is on the committee that decides how much, if any, money is actually spent. So we really look forward to a new day for our district under your leadership. And we look forward for a new country to abide by some of the things that were mentioned but never exercised in our Constitution. I pray that we all stay well. Espaillat, you've been doing a fantastic job in explaining the necessity of the vaccinations. And I wish I could be there physically with all of my buddies, but continue your good work. And I'd like to mention, I can't thank you enough for the political and legislative support that you've given to the program at the City College of New York, a program that will train our young people in all of the things that are necessary to rebuild America's infrastructure. As you know, our failure to do it is a threat to our economy and our national security. But with your leadership on the Second Avenue subway, you and I working together with the president of the City College and the chancellor, and now Mr. Appropriations Man, the Congressional Black Caucus, the Hispanic Caucus, I am so excited for what tomorrow brings. Have a great evening. Buenas noches.
Buenas noches. Muchísimas gracias, Charles, Mr. Charles. I remember you growing up in New York City. You are an iconic politician. You are an iconic human being. Thank you so much for all the great work. Thank you.
Thank you for doing that.
Okay, and now guess what? A todas las chicas, a las mujeres, también nos trae nuestro turno de una dominicana que de verdad yo me siento muy orgullosa. I feel very honored to introduce this Dominican. And I'm going to start very briefly with her past, and then I'll go to her present. She was a diplomat. She's a diplomat, but she was the United States ambassador to Uruguay during the Barack Obama presidency. And she has worked in both the private and public sectors as a lawyer. In 2020, she is working with Winston & Stern LLP due to her stellar career. But guess what? Now she is designated Chief of Staff of President Joe Biden's, our First Lady, President Joe Biden's wife, Jill Biden. Vamos a recibirle. Yo sí que le doy un aplauso. I do welcome her with a big round of applause. Julissa Reynoso, adelante.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Muchas gracias. Para mí es un gusto estar aquí con ustedes. It's a great pleasure to be with you. I'm no longer in New York City, my neighborhood of West Harlem, but that is still my permanent residency. And more importantly, that's where my son lives, in my heart. But I'm want to congratulate Adriano, take a brief pause from the really incredibly intense activity of work here in the White House to congratulate him and really show the level, provide a gesture of the deep respect that I have for him and his trajectory and what he does on a daily and really moment by moment basis for the community that he serves in the New York generally, but and also the communities of folks from throughout the country that deserve a voice, that need a voice like his in Washington to move and promote justice for all. He's really a very extraordinarily authentic representative politician, citizen, and I'm so grateful that I have been given the opportunity and the honor to work with him and really become his friend. So I congratulate him. I congratulate all of us that voted for him in the district, and I am incredibly proud of him and in the community of Upper Manhattan for having him as our lead political and democratic voice here in DC. I know he's going to do really transformative work going forward. He's fearless. He's tenacious. And now that we're here in thankfully in the executive branch, I'm really hopeful for the things we're going to do together. So thank you for inviting me to this session. And again, congratulations to Adriano, and with Adriano, his family, and his incredible staff that have really served to help all of us and have been hand in hand with him to get him to this point. So thank you.
Gracias a ti. Muchísimas gracias, Julissa. Thank you so much. We wish you the best. I know there's a long journey ahead, but you represent us and you represent us very well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
As you can see, our fellow new people that are joining in on Facebook, we are in the Facebook page live of our Congressman Adriano Espaillat. You may think we're not letting him speak, is that he has everything prepared for the end. We will let you speak, I promise. But for now, these are all his friends trying to jump in really quick out of their tight schedule and just congratulate him, because today we are making history again as Dominicanos and as Latinos in the United States Congress. Vamos a continuar. One of the most beautiful moments of the recent inauguration was poetry. And of course, we have to have it here. And this young lady, it's amazing. I had the chance to see her video earlier before. And Michaela Jackson is going to right now take us to the world of romance and truth about living. Go ahead.
To be what we are means to face our scars. It means to live amongst the possibility of an ending and to face the subtlety of growth, of change, of hope. Our minds are tethered to the fear it brings to life, and our actions hang desperately to the lightning speed of time. Yet we can sometimes make the mistake of forgetting that to be alive just simply means to be alive. There is no use in clinging on to the days that mock you in passing by. Just be alive. Just be alive. If it snows on a day that you prayed for sunshine, don't take light of the way the snow greets you as it falls peacefully from the sky. Watch as it glazes the trees that surround you, or the way your footprints shape the ground of snow below. It can be grim to be isolated from the world that you inhabit, but let the subtlety of growth become your strongest habit. Let yourself be in tune with your reflection, because that is your smile, your eyes, your glow. And if the struggles of life overcome you, let life's immensity soothe you. Let the conflict that face you shrink in the light of all that are greater things, because there are greater things. We often forget how to truly be alive. We focus on tomorrow's struggle or dwell on yesterday's time. We could sometimes form hate and disappointment and forget about the joys and change, but in the midst of this, we must remind ourselves how to truly live a life.
Incredible, incredible, bravo. To be present, to be alive, to be a witness of this amazing moment. Thank you so much, Makayla. God bless you. And may God take your long journey career as a poet to the highest levels that you desire. Thank you. And I have to say this, and this is a very personal note. Congressman Adriano Espaillat supports the youth, supports our girls, the girls of our community. And I am a true proof of that. When I opened an academy for girls, he was there in the inauguration. He was there throughout my 14 years where we graduated more than 10,000 girls. And in every little stone that came in my way, he was there to support me and support the girls of our community. So that is exactly why Congressman Adriano Espaillat wanted to have this young, beautiful, talented girl as part of this event today. Así que muchas gracias. Públicamente te agradezco, Adriano Espaillat, por tu apoyo. Okay, let's continue. Now, something more serious. Vamos a ponernos serios aquí, que la cosa se puso con el poder mayor, ¿eh? Speaker of the United States House of Representatives since 2019, Mrs. Nancy Pelosi. Roll the video.
Hello. It is a joy to join friends, family, and constituents of Congressman Adriano Espaillat to celebrate his re-election and the beginning of our new unified Democratic 117th Congress. For decades, at the local, state, and national levels, Congressman Espaillat has served the people of New York City with pride and distinction. His dedicated leadership and bold vision have been instrumental in lifting up vulnerable communities, combating the scourge of domestic violence, and advancing justice and opportunity for all. As the first Dominican elected to Congress, Congressman Espaillat has been a champion for Dominican Americans and all our beautiful, diverse immigrant communities, ensuring that their voices and values are heard at the decision-making table. As Democrats begin our work with the new Biden-Harris administration, Congressman Espaillat's leadership will continue to be a powerful voice to build back better, to combat the coronavirus pandemic, and to deliver results that make a difference for his constituents and for all Americans. On behalf of your friends and colleagues in the Democratic Caucus, Congressman Espaillat, on your re-election, congratulations. Thank you for your tireless efforts to build a brighter future for the people. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Adriano, are you getting goosebumps throughout all these messages? You are, right? Yes. No es que no le estamos dejando hablar, es que hay que seguir un rundown. Él va a hablar ahorita. Pero bueno, para continuar con este rundown, to continue with this rundown of this ceremony, we now have the honor, and this is making history again, virtual history, to introduce a friend, a leader, and the leader of the Dominican Republic right now. He has a big load on his back, but as Dominicans in the United States know, we have our foot here and our heart over there. Tenemos nuestro pie aquí y nuestro corazón en nuestro país, República Dominicana. I had the honor to be in his office recently, and he opened his arms to all the great ideas that alongside Adriano and Adriano's team, we had to unite the bond between Dominicanos in the US and Dominicanos in República Dominicana. It is an honor to introduce you the President of the Dominican Republic, el presidente, excelentísimo señor presidente de la República Dominicana, Luis Abinader. Bienvenido.
Muchas gracias, Celinés. Gracias por tus palabras. Y quiero a un amigo, primero, a un gran dominicano norteamericano, a un gran congresista y a una gran persona que es Adriano Espaillat, felicitarlo nuevamente por su elección, decirle que en República Dominicana estamos muy orgullosos de tenerlo a él en la Cámara de Representantes, representando obviamente su distrito, pero también una voz a favor de, y teniendo en cuenta la República Dominicana en este concierto de naciones y también de todos los inmigrantes. En República Dominicana tenemos un especial aliado en Estados Unidos y esa ha sido parte importante y también una decisión de nuestro gobierno de las relaciones con Estados Unidos, tenerla y continuarla, que sigan siendo muy especiales. Y esas relaciones a través de Adriano, esa alianza estratégica entre República Dominicana y Estados Unidos, con Adriano es que podemos hacerla y perfeccionarla mucho mejor. En República Dominicana tenemos muchísimos planes que solamente estamos esperando que esta crisis del COVID pues vaya de manera gradual saliendo de todos los escenarios para poder trabajar juntos en mejorar la calidad de vida de esa diáspora que vive allá en Estados Unidos y de la cual también nosotros nos sentimos muy orgullosos por su trabajo, por su representación y por también todas cómo se han destacado en ese gran país. Y junto con Adriano es que vamos a hacer y vamos a poder esos grandes planes que tenemos desde el gobierno y Adriano desde el Congreso norteamericano, poder unificar muchos de estos planes y poder hacerlo de manera conjunta. Así que, querido Adriano, Celinés, nosotros, repito, aquí en República Dominicana estamos muy orgullosos de tener a Adriano Espaillat en el Congreso norteamericano representando su distrito, pero también siendo una voz por la democracia, una voz por los inmigrantes, una voz por los dominicanos norteamericanos que viven allá, una voz a favor de los mejores intereses de ambas naciones. Gracias, Adriano, por representarnos también y estamos muy orgullosos de ti aquí en la República Dominicana. Tenemos muchos planes y esos planes los vamos a hacer juntos.
Muchísimas gracias, señor presidente. De verdad que es un honor para mí volverle a interactuar con usted y todos estamos muy confiados. Ahora mismo yo sé que en este Facebook Live hay un montón de ciudadanos dominicanos en Estados Unidos que tienen toda su fe puesta en su gestión, al igual que yo y al igual que todo el equipo de Adriano junto al congresista. Gracias. Buenas noches. Gracias. Yo sé que usted se va a ir a trabajar nuevamente, así que agradecemos esta intervención.
Gracias. Estoy en Puerto Plata. Un lugar que le gusta mucho a Adriano.
Sí.
Ahí lo vimos con Vin Diesel. Nuestro presidente
Así
estaba
es,
hoy con
así
Vin
es.
Diesel, el actor.
Un abrazo
Thank
a
you so
todos.
much.
Gracias.
Thank you so much. To everyone tuning in right now in this Facebook Live, that was the president of our country, Luis Abinader, who really is doing an amazing job. And all of the Dominicanos in the US have all the hopes put on his shoulders and his whole cabinet because it's about time. It's our time. It's Dominican time. I can say that. Okay, to continue now, finally, we're gonna let him speak. But before he speaks, let me just review some facts. I know them, but so I don't make mistakes, I need to read some of them. Born in the Dominican Republic on Monday, September 27, 1954. You do the math. Dominican-American politician who was elected to the New York State Senate representing the 31st District in 2011. Born in Santiago, but guess what? Es del Cibao, pero es liceísta. He goes to for the blue baseball team, like me. I'm liceísta too. Proudly represent the New York 13th Congressional District. He is the first formerly undocumented, and I should repeat this because this is a milestone achievement. He is the first formerly undocumented immigrant to be elected to Congress and is the first Dominican American to serve in the U.S. House of Representatives. I say that, and again, I get goosebumps. Representative Espaillat currently serves as a member of the influential U.S. House Committee on Appropriations, responsible for funding the federal government's vital activities to keep the United States safe, strong, and moving forward. I can continue reading more bullet points about him, but right now it is my honor to introduce nuestro querido congresista Adriano Espaillat, que tiene un resumen de lo que ha sido ese challenging. He's going to give us now an overview. He has a presentation and he's going to show us what all the achievements, everything he has accomplished in this challenging past pandemic year of 2020. Welcome, Mr. Congressman Adriano Espaillat.
Thank you so much. I want to thank all of you for being here. It's a special time.
Adriano, it's Chuck Schumer. I've been sitting watching.
Oh, go ahead, Senator. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'll be very brief because I don't want to interrupt Adriano. But he is not only my friend, he is a great leader. He symbolizes the best in America, breaking those ceilings. The first Dominican in the United States Congress. He will certainly not be the last. Adriano will lead a whole band of Dominicans soon enough. And I would like to thank him for all he does in the Congress. We are a great team. We help his district together. We work for housing. We work for feeding hungry people. We work for aid for New York. We work for aid for mass transit. And maybe most of all, we work to see that immigrants are treated fairly in America because we love immigrants. Adriano symbolizes how great they are. So I just want to say three things. 2020 was a bad year. The worst economic crisis since the Depression, the worst health crisis since the pandemic flu. And we had Donald Trump as president. But three good things happened at the end. Number one, we got rid of Donald Trump. He's gone. We're glad he doesn't live in New York. He can go to Florida. Two, we got a vaccine. And three, Adriano gets a new powerful position in the Congress. And guess who your majority leader is in the Senate? Chuck help the Dominican community. So I would be very, from sitting here in the car, it's not very good light, but I wanted to be here and say, felicitaciones. We love you, Adriano. We think you are the greatest, and we will be a great team together in the United States Senate. To all of my friends, the elected officials, so many people here, and all the people watching, let us do everything we can to have Adriano's back as he fights the fight to make our country better, our city better, and the 13th Congressional District better. Thank you, and Dios te bendiga.
Gracias. Thank you, Senator. He's heading the U.S. Senate now. So thank you all the elected officials, of course, Reverend Bacchus and our good friend, President of Yeshiva University, all of you that are here, Congressman Rangel, thank you for always your counsel, your advice. And I look so much forward to continue to work with you in that transportation and infrastructure. I call it the Charlie Rangel Transportation infrastructure institute in City College that will train young people. But all of you, this has been a very, very difficult year for so many of us across the country, not just in the district, but particularly in this district. Recently, many of you know that I came down with COVID-19, and I want to thank many of you for your prayers, for your good wishes. Thousands of people send me emails and texts and calls during the last 2 weeks that I've been in quarantine. And I'm happy to tell you that today I tested negative. So I'm ready to come outside again and join all of you in the work that we must do to move our community forward. But I really do want to thank you for all your blessings. They really touched my heart, and I know they worked. So it's not just with science, it's not just with research and medical attention. I want to thank my medical team, Dr. Lantigua, and the rest of my medical team that were there every day when I thought I was getting worse or better. They always answer my call. So now I'll wait for the PowerPoint from Omar. And let's get into, this has been, as I said, a very tough year. 2020 has been a tough year, but every crisis, every great crisis always also brings about tremendous opportunities because it is during these crises that we see our weaknesses, and we see our challenges, and we see the obstacles that are facing us on a daily basis, but perhaps from a better view. And we will review this 2020 and take a look back and see what we accomplished in Congress, and so that we can have a better focus and a better perspective on how to move forward in 2021. You'll see, for example, I want to thank my staff who works very hard under very adverse conditions, and we had to adjust to virtual constituent services online. We saw over 4,000 constituent cases. In fact, 4,221 families were serviced in our 3 offices, 1,100 in the Bronx, 2,082 in Harlem, and 1,039 in Washington Heights. The team that works with me is a very experienced team, a very dedicated team led by the great Anady Batista. You all know her. She is relentless, and she is committed, and she is someone that feels for people. And of course, we're providing this service. Quiero darle las gracias a todos ustedes por sus oraciones, por sus buenos sentimientos, sus llamadas, su correo electrónico. Miles de personas se contactaron conmigo durante las últimas 2 semanas que estuve positivo del COVID-19, pero hoy finalmente le puedo decir que ya salí negativo de la prueba y estoy ya preparándome para salir y seguir el trabajo que es necesario para llevar a cabo nuestra comunidad. Y como vieron, más de 4,000 familias recibieron servicio durante el 2020 en medio de la pandemia de las 3 oficinas nuestras, tanto del Bronx como la del Alto Manhattan y naturalmente la de Harlem. As you know, the COVID-19 relief has been a very tough one. It's been demanding on us. We receive 1,200 calls every week. We had approximately 200 plus meetings, 50,000 constituent emails we received in our offices, and we had the responsibility to answer to our constituencies because we were truly in an unprecedented crisis, perhaps the crisis of our generations, and we had to be there for them. During this time, I introduced 40 pieces of legislation, which included 18 pieces of legislation that I reintroduced from previous years, and an additional 24 pieces of legislation that I've introduced this right in the middle of the crisis. And many of them had to do as the Congressman said, and as President Abinader mentioned, immigration issues. But it had to do with the pandemic too. It had to do with small businesses that are hurting. It had to do with families that need help, that need a leg up during these very difficult times. So I'm very proud that even in the midst of the pandemic, we've introduced in the 116th Congress 42 pieces of legislation, and many of which have moved forward. And I want to share that information with you. For example, some of the legislative accomplishments were one that I know is very important to Congressman Rangel, because when he introduced the empowerment zone, the tax credit that came to businesses, to small businesses, for employing local residents, many of them young people, sunsetted. So we had to go back and fight and work to make sure that that benefit, that tax credit, was reinstituted. And we were successful in passing that legislation, which is HR 2203, which provides a tax credit for small businesses that provide employment for local folks. And it went retroactive for 3 years. So they were able to get that, the small businesses are able to get that money for the past 3 years. In addition to that, we also successfully passed a Small Business COVID-19 Recovery Grant Act. Many of you know that small businesses are hurting very, very bad, particularly restaurants and those that had to shut down during the months of February, March, April, when the pandemic was really assaulting New York City. Many of them are shut down. Some of them are struggling to open up. And I know that the Small Business Administration has provided the Paycheck Protection Program, the PPP program, which is a forgivable loan program. But also, in addition to that, I push hard for grants to be included in that package. Not loans, but grants for businesses that are really hurting. And that was a piece of legislation that we were successful. We were also successful in naming one of our local post office to an iconic figure in the community, Normandia Maldonado. She was the queen of dance. She was a folkloric dancer, founder of the Dominican Parade, lived on 164th Street in Amsterdam, raised her family there. At St. Rose of Lima Church, right in the basement, she had the studio to train young people in folkloric dance. So guess what? The post office right around the block from her will now bear her name, the Normandia Maldonado Post Office. And hopefully this summer, when things are safe out there, we'll be able to come together and we will be able to have a nice feast, a nice folkloric feast to open that post office with such a distinguished name of a lady that gave it all for her community. Este año vamos a tener la celebración del nombramiento de el correo de Normandía Maldonado, ubicado en la calle 165 entre Amsterdam y Audubon, precisamente al cruzar de la calle donde ella le enseñaba a docenas y centenares de jóvenes el folclore dominicano. También also we had 3 standalone bills that passed the House. One of them was the Small Business Growth Accelerator Fund, funding for startup businesses across the city and state. Another one was providing housing survivors of major disasters with some relief. It is unfortunate that during Hurricane Maria, and even during some of the fires and some of the storms that have and natural disasters that have hit some of the states across the country, survivors are faced with a tremendous bureaucratic hurdle before FEMA to get help. That will be streamlined. So for example, folks in Puerto Rico that had to come up with the original deed of a house to get the funding to build a new roof, now we'll be able to get it with an electric bill or a letter from the school that their children go to, or maybe one of the bills that they get from the hospital, or a credit card receipt. Make it easier for them to access the funding that's available through FEMA to overcome these major disasters. In addition to that, as you know, I am from the Dominican Republic, and the Caribbean is, I consider, the third border of our nation, an important part of the United States. And as such, we increased substantially the funding that goes to the Caribbean Basin Security Initiative by $18 million. Those dollars will go to fight crime, to fight drug trafficking, but also to help young people in urban settings that are facing violence, gun violence, to ensure that there's greater transparency and that there's greater ethics in the government of those nations. So we will be looking forward to work with our Senate partners in making sure that that funding goes there and is implemented in the right way. Two other bills passed in the House as part of other legislation. One of them is Transportation Alternative Enhancement Act. That will provide funding for open space. That will provide funding for pedestrian safety measures. That will provide funding for additional alternative methods of transportation, particularly in urban settings. The next one is one that will mandate that Border Patrol and ICE agents wear a body camera. We all know that much happens at the border. I've been down there myself. I've seen it with my very own eyes. I've been to the detention centers down in the border. They are horrendous. And of course, the body camera program will not only protect the victim or the immigrant, but also the Border Patrol agent will ensure that everything that is alleged will be documented. Other legislative accomplishments of this 116 Congress included H.R. 1, the For the People Act, pertaining to diversity and membership in the state redistricting commissions. You know that after the census, all of our congressional districts and all of our legislative districts at the state level and the city level will be reconfigured. We must have a diversity in the membership of the redistricting commissions. Also, H.R. 9, which is a Climate Action Now Act related to environmental justice. Very often, those communities that contribute the least to climate change and to global warming suffer the most. We all know that in the 13th Congressional District, the vast majority of our constituents take public transportation, yet we have high rates of asthma, we have respiratory diseases, and we have serious conditions among families and the population as a result of poor air quality. So this act will ensure that in anything that is done regarding the environment, whether it is funding, whether there is the new Green Deal, or any other measure that is taken locally or internationally to address climate change, the funding will go first to those communities that are hit the hardest, that are disproportionately impacted by climate change. And of course, that means many neighborhoods in the 13th Congressional District. 7 bills were included in the appropriation package. That means that the language of those bills was included in a bigger comprehensive bill, and as such are now part of the law. One of them includes prohibits the Office of Refugee Resettlement and the U.S. Department of Health from contracting any for-profit contractor for the purpose of housing unaccompanied minors. We saw what developed at the border, children being ripped away from their parents. But worse than that was some of these children landed in facilities that were run by private contractors. That should not be the case. The profit margin should not be the incentive to take care of people that are finding themselves in a very adverse condition. This particular language was included in appropriations to ensure that for-profit contractors for the purpose of housing unaccompanied minors will not have that opportunity again. And we just saw how the president signed an executive order doing away with the private contracting of our prison system. So this is very important. Also highlighting and encouraging the continued support for STEM education in Hispanic educational institutions as authorized by the America Competes Act. Moreover, language was included in the appropriations package that highlighted the need for English language acquisition grants and technical assistance for education agencies supporting English language learners. And finally, additional language was included to support minority patient outreach and minority candidate inclusion for the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease in clinical trial participation for a vaccine. We saw how it was so difficult to get people of color to involve themselves and participate in the clinical trial of the COVID-19 vaccine. This language will make it easier for that to occur in the future. There are 5 amendments that were also adopted in committee as part of the INVEST Act. So I'm very proud of the work that I've done in this area. And now I would like to share some of the additional initiatives that we're working on. Funding. In addition to legislation, a very important part of my job is to ensure that resources and funding come to our community and come to programs that I help champion. $34.5 million went to the Body-Worn Camera Act for Border Patrol. Language requiring ICE to develop its own comprehensive body-worn camera program was also implemented there. And language requiring the USCIS to work with stakeholders and report to Congress and preventing them from closing down or consolidating international field offices. These are the offices where people go throughout the world to try to reunite, get a visa, and try to reunite with their families, try to get their green card and reunite with their families back in the US. There was an effort to consolidate and shut down many of these offices, making it a lot more difficult for these families to eventually reunite. As I told you earlier, $74.8 million for the Caribbean Basin Security Initiative, an increase of $18 million. Increased funding for the WIC Farmers Market Nutrition Program to the tune of $21 billion. That means food stamps for working moms, for senior citizens, an increase of $21 billion. We fought for that. $2.6 billion for the New Starts Infrastructure Program. Congressman Rangel, those are the funds for the second phase of the 2nd Avenue subway. It's important that we get that money in there. We're going to continue to fight. And later on, I'll tell you exactly how the congressman and I are working on another aspect of that 2nd Avenue subway project. $91.5 million to help Hispanic serving colleges and universities expand their STEM programs. This is really important. We must keep our universities moving forward. They must provide state-of-the-art education, and this funding will allow for that to happen. Grant funding secure outside of government. We're very proud also that the federal government funded $24.7 million to the New York City Housing Authority through through HUD, and 17.3 million of that will be allocated towards modernizing lighting systems at 3 NYCHA campuses in New York City, including 2 in East Harlem, Jefferson and Johnson. And I'm sure I saw Robert Rodriguez in the call. I'm sure he's very happy, and Diana Ayala, who represent both at the state and the city level, that district. $10 million from New York Presbyterian Hospital went to local businesses right in the middle of the pandemic. Half of that has been given to the businesses already for help and for the efforts that are currently being undertaken to ensure that a significant greater number of businesses apply to the Paycheck Protection Program issued by the Small Business Administration. Legislative priorities for this Congress. Of course, we're still in the midst of the COVID relief and vaccination program. We were successful in putting forward dozens and if not hundreds of testing sites across the district, starting with the drive-in site right across Lehman College in the Bronx very early during the pandemic. And now we have the vaccination center, not only in several churches and clinics across the district, but also at the Armory. We will be fighting also for additional venues, huge venues like the Kingsbridge Armory, the Harlem Armory, other of these other big venues that are available. You can vaccinate hundreds and thousands of people. And we were concerned at the beginning, I must share with you, of the practices that led to many complaints that local folks were not being vaccinated at the Armory. But my office stepped in and we were able to push to ensure that now 100% of the folks that go there have to be New Yorkers, and 60% must be from the immediate neighborhoods of Central Harlem, West Harlem, Hamilton Heights, Washington Heights, Inwood, and Marble Hill. We want to push even for a higher percentage. We feel that 100% of them should be from the immediate neighborhood of this great medical institution. Legislative priorities for the 117th Congress, of course, will include fighting for immigrants and immigration reform. I've been appointed to co-chair the Congressional Hispanic Caucus Task Force on Immigration Reform, which will take a look at the Biden proposal and compare it with our proposals, our provisions, and to strengthen it to ensure that those provisions that are important to many people are also included in the Biden proposal. And we hope to conclude with that work no later than March of this year. In addition to that, we cannot move forward as a country unless we invest in our transportation and infrastructure. Our road, bridges, and tunnels are collapsing, but we'd also need broadband, both rural and urban. In addition to that, we got to make sure that public housing is also part of our infrastructure, and our school system and our waterways, our water systems are also part of our infrastructure. We must have a total makeover of our total transportation and infrastructure in the country, and we must invest in that. And to do that, I want to share with you what Congressman Rangel and myself have been doing. In addition to transportation and infrastructure, we've also, as I said earlier, opened test sites at Metropolitan Hospital, Sydenham Clinic, at Harlem Hospital, at North Bronx Central, at Lehman College, at Dr. Pinarelli's Clinic, at Somos, opened dozens of testing sites, at the Washington Houses, Harlem Houses. Dr. Karen Thornton has been a great help to our office with her mobile unit, which every weekend provides testing for the community. This weekend, this Saturday, we will be at 3333 Broadway providing free testing for everybody. Food distribution. We've also helped out with providing meals. I want to give a shout out to Keith Lilly, who was a real hero during this pandemic, helping out in Harlem, and Somos, the great Independent Physician Association, opening up dozens of meal sites across the district so people would not go hungry. But also Catholic Charities came in and helped out, and the food pantries across the district, all of them stepped up and helped out. NSA, the National Supermarket Association, was a great collaborator as well in helping out feed our neighborhood during these very difficult times. We led a street cleanup operation during the spring weeks. We hope to continue to go back to that. We demand greater sanitation services for our community. But when they're not provided, we roll up our sleeves ourselves and do it on our own. But we are demanding greater services from the city in that area. And we will continue to conduct these street cleanups throughout the district. I did it in Harlem, in East Harlem, with Councilwoman Diana Ayala. We did it there on 116th Street. We went to the Bronx. Some of the parks, the green areas were cleaned up, and residents and citizens across the district join in a good effort of civic duty to make sure that our neighborhood stays clean and remains healthy for our children and families. Again, I wanted to communicate with you the work that I'm doing with Congressman Rangel in City College to ensure that young people get the opportunity to be trained in transportation infrastructure jobs. We got the initial $500,000 from the state, but more will be coming. And eventually, I think this will be an incubator to prepare young people that will be making prevailing wages in jobs that are well paid with great benefits in projects like the 2nd Avenue subway, in projects like the Gateway Tunnel, in projects like the JFK Airport, and others that will be coming this way in New York City. In addition to that, we're working with Columbia University in this World Project to ensure that a pilot project is implemented in the Dominican Republic in the city of Santiago de los Caballeros and Santo Domingo with the installation of removable microgrids, electrical and solar microgrids in poor neighborhoods that will serve as a backup whenever there's a blackout or serve as a backup for energy source whenever there's a natural disaster. And we're far advanced in the project. I believe that sometime this summer, some of the neighborhoods have already been identified. We should be, God willing, we should be flying to the Dominican Republic to kick off that initiative, which really it shows how our institutions and their influence and their know-how goes way beyond the immediate 13th Congressional District. The Harlem Manifesto, we saw the civil unrest, the protests that came out of the killing of George Floyd. And the Harlem Manifesto was a compilation of all the legislation, the state legislation that Senator Benjamin worked on, the city legislation and that Senator Jamal Bailey worked on, the city legislation that Diana Ayala worked on, Bill Perkins worked on, our very own Idanis Rodriguez and Mark Levine worked on, and of course the federal legislation that we're still pushing for in Congress. So the Harlem Manifesto Against Police Brutality was a compilation of all those initiatives, legislative initiatives, so that people that were out in the street justly protesting racism and demanding racial justice and calling for healing would also be able to understand what were the legislative changes that we were fighting for in Congress, in the state legislature, and in the New York City Council. The death penalty, it must be abolished. It is a horrific, archaic, Byzantine practice. It is an embarrassment to the rest of the world. As Donald Trump ran out of the White House, he went on a killing spree, executing close to 5 people. And we must stop that. I introduced legislation working with Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley and Senator Durbin from Illinois to finally bring an end to the death penalty and to solitary confinement. These are 2 linchpins. These are 2 fundamental pieces of criminal justice reform that must see their day. Finally, as you heard from Congressman Rangel, I've been appointed to the Appropriations Committee by Speaker Pelosi. And I will be working on several subcommittees, including one that deals exclusively with transportation infrastructure, another one that deals with the legislative branch, and a third one that deals also with foreign government, foreign funding, government funding for other countries across the world. As you know, I previously served in the Foreign Affairs Committee. Now I will be in the fiscal end of that interest of mine. The role, of course, of the House Appropriations Committee, as I said, Transportation, Housing, and Urban Development Subcommittee. I will continue to provide federal investment in transportation infrastructure programs. The State and Foreign Operations Subcommittee will strengthen our nation's relations with our key allies. These relationships that have been fractured, that were fractured by the Trump administration, we must restore our relationship with our traditional allies across the world. And finally, legislative branch, providing the funding that is necessary so that the assault, the insurrection, the seditious insurrection that occurred last January 6th does not happen again. We will be inviting you on February 24th to participate on the 3rd annual Dominicans on the Hill event. It will be held virtually as this swearing-in ceremonies is being held. And we will hope that you participate at 7 o'clock. All of you are invited. We will have fun, but we will also have our solemn moments to remember those that lost their lives during the COVID-19 pandemic, to hear from physicians, from researchers, to hear from small business owners, to hear from educators about distance learning and the challenges that our families are facing with distance learning and their children. So please tune in and participate February 24th at 7 p.m. with Dominicans, the 3rd annual Dominicans on the Hill event. In addition, we, for the month of February, due to the fact that we had to cancel our annual Martin Luther King Jr. event that we do every year in January due to COVID-19 and how it impacted me personally, we will be taking that up again during Black History Month in February. And we will have a great and notable members of our communities participate in that event. And I urge all of you to participate. We'll be coming out with the date soon. We'll notify you, and we'll hope that you're also part of this traditional event that we do every single year. We are stronger together. Our community will remain stronger together. We are a diverse community that has Senegalese on 116th Street and the African-American capital of the African diaspora in Harlem, and also El Barrio, the cradle of the Hispanic experience in New York City, and immigrant Washington Heights and Inwood. And we have our Jewish neighbors on Bennett Avenue and Yeshiva University. And we have Albanians in the northwest part of the Bronx and Puerto Ricans in the Bronx. And we have the Irish in Inwood. And we have the new West African community in the West Bronx. We have Mexicans in East Harlem. And we have, of course, Dominicans in Washington Heights. We are a strong community because we are diverse. That makes us stronger, and stronger together is our theme for this year. We will be able to move forward and leave the pandemic behind. We will be able to reopen our businesses and create jobs for our local families. We will be able to bring our children back again and open our schools and provide them with the opportunity that they deserve. And we will honor the memory of the thousands, the hundreds of thousands of family members that we lost in this pandemic, which has changed our life, but has made us truly, truly stronger. God bless you and keep the faith.
Bravo, bravo, Adriano. Wow, congratulations on all the achievements, on every slide of the presentation. Taught us a lot of your dedication, your true passion to serve, and also to be the best example of the most important race there is, and that is the human race. Thank you, Adriano. Adriano, I'm not gonna let you go, and before we intro our last but not least final guest, I have to ask you, if you could change one thing of the symptoms and feelings while you were feeling well, while you had COVID, what would that be? One thing only. What can you change about what you went through?
Well, I tell you, I would not change the fact that I felt the prayers and the great thoughts that people communicated to me. I felt those vibes inside of me, and they made a difference. So I want to thank all of you for that.
The power of the prayers.
I have never felt that in my life, in my entire life. The way I felt it in a very solemn, lonely days that I spent here. But I want to thank everybody for their thoughts and their prayers.
Thank you, thank you. Qué lindo. Él acaba de decir eso mismo a todos los que no hablan inglés en la página de Facebook, que agradece el poder de la oración de toda la gente que oró por él, incluyéndome a mí. Qué bueno que ya estás bien, Adriano. Tenemos mucho, ahora es que viene más tiempo que berenjena, como decimos en República Dominicana. Okay, well, to finish this, and it's a great honor, again, as a Latina and Dominicana, to present our last but not least guest. I'm going to read a few points very quickly. He immigrated from the Dominican Republic at the age of 14 and graduated from Columbia College, where his exploits as a pitcher on the baseball team earned him a spot in the Columbia University Athletic Hall of Fame. He then went on to Columbia Law School. Also, he held a number of positions with the Legal Aid Society at the New York City Commission of Human Rights before his election to the New York County Civil Court judgeship in 1987. He was elected to the Supreme Court in 2002 and promoted to the Appellate Division in 2008 by Governor Eliot Spitzer. Con todos ustedes, and here with us is Honorable Rolando T. Acosta, Presiding Justice of New York State Supreme Court Appellate Division, First Department since May 2017. Your Honor, welcome tonight.
Thank you so much, Celine, and thank you, Congressman, for the honor of administering the oath this evening and for your friendship. We seem to have taken our swearing-in administration on the road.
Yes.
We're going to do it virtually. So I ask you to please put your left hand on the Bible and raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Adriano Espaillat, do solemnly swear.
I, Adriano Espaillat, do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
That I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies.
Against all enemies.
Foreign and domestic.
Foreign and domestic.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same.
And that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same.
That I take this obligation freely.
That I take this obligation freely.
Without any mental reservation.
Without any mental reservation.
Or purpose of evasion.
Or purpose of evasion.
And that I will well and faithfully discharge.
That I will well and faithfully discharge.
The duties of the office.
The duties of the office.
Member of the House of Representatives.
Member of the House of Representatives.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Congressman.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Rolando. Thank you so much. And thank you all of my colleagues that are here, Congressman Rangel, Celines, all of you, Assemblyman Dinowitz, Carmen de la Rosa. I see all of you here, Robert Rodriguez, Jose Serrano, Jose Marco Serrano, Mark Levine, Keith Powers, Ari Berman, Gail Brewer, I see there, Diana Ayala, Idanis Rodriguez, John Greenfield, all of you. Thank you so much for your friendship. Vanessa, I see you. Thank you so much for your friendship and the work that you do for all of us. You are truly an exceptional team, and I am blessed to be part of it. God bless you.
Muchísimas gracias a todos los que nos acompañaron por Facebook. Me emociono porque this is the true example of unity, the true example of the country of opportunity, the United States. Adriano, God bless you. May the rainbow shine in the months ahead, in the years ahead of you and your mission as congressman. And thank you so very much to everyone who joined with our tight schedule to jump in just to congratulate you and be part of this historic night. Thank you, everyone. Be safe. Thank you, everyone on Facebook. Muchísimas gracias. Adriano, te queremos mucho.
Thank you.